Hello and welcome. This is Jake Hofer, co-owner of Exodus, broker here in Illinois for real estate, and we are bringing you a fresh channel all about land. So we've been doing the land podcast here since this last summer, and we've been saving and archiving a lot of these conversations in video format, and we've been banking them. And now it is time to break these up, share them. And if you're looking to learn more about buying, selling, investing, how to get started in buying land, anything land related, you are in the right location. And hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Brad and Tim. They talk about how to buy land in a partnership in a very interesting way. And I think that if you are looking to do something like that, this video should prove to be invaluable, and we're gonna be breaking these up into highlights as well down the road. So before you take any of this advice to heart, just remember, I am a guy on the internet. Do your own due diligence, talk to your own attorney, talk to your own broker, and hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Here we go. Okay, this is a deja vu round two here, because actually round three technically. So I have Brad and Tim here from Indiana. I felt like we broke the news of the Huff Buck and confirmed all the details of how far that deer traveled before everything really broke even more. And then we did a land podcast, and the world said no, we lost it. So we're trying here again. Brad and Tim, how are you guys doing here today?
Good. How are you doing?
Man, just another day getting back from Iowa, getting caught up, and it's fun to travel in all these states, but man, it can be a challenge to get caught up.
Yeah, you've been jet setting all over the U.S., haven't you? PA, yeah. Iowa.
I think
Indiana. Did you go to Indiana? Where else did you go?
PA, Ohio, or Iowa, and then really it's just that. But I flew. Of the last 5 weeks, I've been gone from home for like the last 3. So off-season work in the farm has not happened because I've been gone. But that's okay. But you guys just left the quest competition, the banquet, and you guys did pretty good too. What happened there?
Yeah, we finished 6th place in Ohio, so that was nice. It was my first experience actually going to the banquet, so it was really cool. Just an absolute amazing group of antlers and group of serious deer hunters.
Yeah, I can imagine. It seems that competition continues to grow, and based on the prize packages, I can see why. It seems like they do a really good job taking care of the contestants.
Absolutely. They absolutely do.
So in case these folks didn't listen to the other one, tell us a little bit about who you guys are and what you guys do for a living.
Timmy?
Yeah, I'll jump in then. I sell beer for a living. Fantastic job. I manage a 7-state region. So, talking about land and big deer is obviously a big passion of both of ours. And, we live here in central Indiana, just outside Indianapolis, and have a couple of different properties to hunt, kind of in the southeast part of Indiana and over in Ohio.
So are you a sales member for like the 7 Midwest states or some of those eastern states, or?
Yeah, we manage it. I'm on the production side of it. So we actually make the beer, and then we've got to sell it to our distributor partners, who then go and sell it to different retailers that we would buy from. So we manage the whole we call it a 3-tier system. Interesting.
Brad, what do you have going on in your world?
I am also a salesman. I sell nuts and bolts for a living. So I manage corporate accounts for an industrial supplier.
Nuts and bolts. We got beer, nuts and bolts, man. That sounds like
that's right.
King of the Hill episode or something. You guys are just.
We're not too complicated of people,
Hey, there's more power to you. I like that. So yeah, and I guess in case they didn't listen to the other episode, which I encourage them to do to learn everything about the Huff Buck, but I actually talked to Dustin very briefly at the Iowa Deer Classic. He was there with the Lucky Buck booth, and it was the end of they're just starting to tear down. I was like, crap, I need to go up there and talk to him here briefly. So went up, shook his hand, saw that deer in person. Holy cow. Gosh. Yeah, man, just something incredible, and was a pleasure to talk with, and just down to earth, and kind of like everything you guys said was very apparent when I spoke with him briefly.
Humble as can be, well deserving of that deer. I unfortunately, he was here at the outdoor show here in Indiana, and I wasn't able to make it down to go see him, but I certainly wanted to see that deer again in person. But I mean, what a phenomenal animal, and just a really cool story. The whole 8 miles, and yeah, I think some people are showing up with some sheds now.
Yeah.
The previous year, and he was darn near 200. I'm hearing the age of the deer is 5.5, which means the first year we would have saw him, he would have been a 2.5-year-old deer pushing 160. Just, I mean, just hard to believe, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, they do exist. They might be a unicorn, but deer like that do exist, and it's fun to talk about.
When I was at the Great American Outdoor Show, it's a 10-day show, and I don't know how many people came up to me like, "Hey, watch the video on the huff buck. That was so cool." So I just wanted to echo that to you guys, and people that watched it really enjoyed it. And then that was like right when the news broke that he was 5, and then people were making a point to talk about it, because you guys had multiple years of trail camera history. It wasn't just a whim of what you were guessing at that point. You had multiple years to build it off of.
Yeah, yep. We had 3, right?
Yeah. Apparently, we're really bad at judging 200-inch typicals in terms of age.
You're a little out of practice, I guess.
Yeah, we're off by a year, but
yeah, just a genetic freak, I guess. And that was funny too, because I know we talked about it afterward, but honestly, when we did this video, then someone from wherever sent an email into the Exodus account and sent a picture of those sheds laying on a archery shop counter, and those are indeed the sheds that are now floating around at the trade show. So
yeah, we have a picture or video of him with both sides. The next day, one side, and then a couple of days later, shed both sides. So we know he shed very, 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 very close to us.
Yes,
very close to us.
Have you guys found out where they were officially scooped up, or just hearsay yet, or who knows?
Not yet. I hope, I'm in the market for a new bow, and I know that the archery shop where the pictures of the sheds were sent to you.
Yes.
And maybe I'll be able to get a little bit tighter circle on where that thing actually was found, because it wasn't for a lack of trying on our part, but
sure.
Who knows?
Yeah. You think with them walking around on one side, either A, the other one's not far away, or B, the second one's not going to be too far from that video's taken. So I think it leaves everything else for imagination for anyone listening to this. Yeah. I could picture.
I think we were out there, 3 days after he shed the second side?
It was real close.
Yeah. Dang. Well, who knows? I'm sure the truth will eventually come out. So that's it is what it is. But anyhow, so you guys are salespeople for a living, and this is all about, because when we were talking about this, you guys own farms in Indiana, Ohio, and I figured, hey, if you guys are buying and selling ground, it seems like you guys have a pretty distinct strategy on what you do. So what's kind of just been a little bit of your guys' land purchasing journey of maybe what was the year where you first acquired your farm or a farm?
I think the first one we bought was, I should have done a little bit more, 8 years ago. I think is when we bought the first one in Indiana. Mm-hmm. And then we added to that one.
Adjacent owner.
Yep. So I think the first parcel we bought was like right around 100 acres. Bought another 20 acres or so adjoining it. Timbered it 2 different times. Sold it. Bought another Indiana property and bought another 96 acres in Ohio next to a small, 30 acre piece that we hunt as well. Mm-hmm. So that makes it hunt a little bit bigger than the 96 acres or whatever we own.
Yeah.
And everything we buy is with like partners. So one property would be in my name, another property might be in my brother's name. Timmy's got to buy a property in Illinois or Kentucky or somewhere now. So
Kansas, apparently.
Kansas, probably. So that's kind of what we do. So that frees up, it's not in 4 different people's name. You don't have to do the whole LLC game to, get funding for it and loans through that and do that mm-hmm. whole thing. It's just kind of equal contributors and makes it a little bit easier, cleaner, frees up your income, as an individual. So you don't have a bunch of different parties involved in that. It just becomes a mess. if you try to put 4 people on the deed and all that stuff. So it seemed like the easiest way for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty sharp, because when we discussed this last time, I asked you, well, is this because of, one of the reasons is if you buy ground as a group, let's say all 3 of us went and bought ground, and that debt goes against all of our own personal debt to income. So if we want to go buy a different house or go buy a different property, the debt on that's, even though it's divided by 3, it's still carried as 1. And obviously that limits your purchasing power, even if you are a group that continues to do that. So is that one of the driving factors of the reason you did it?
Yep, absolutely. So what could I buy? Maybe 15 to 20 acres on my own, or I could buy 80 to 100 acres. You know, as it gets larger and larger, usually the price per acre goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So you just join and buy a little bit bigger piece.
How'd you guys come up with that idea? Was that something that you just, where'd you learn that from, or did you guys just kind of dream it up after, bouncing some ideas around?
I think it just started out like my brother and I were like, all right, well, me and you, we don't have any properties to hunt anymore. I mean, leases are extremely high. We don't come from farming families or anything like that. So, I mean, growing up, we had a like 11 acre piece, a 17 acre piece. And, we had an uncle that had, a 100 acre farm that we were able to hunt. But other than that, it was struggle. We lost, I don't know how many properties over the years, how many leases. You kill a big deer on a lease and somehow somebody finds out and, it gets bought out underneath you, or whatever reason. There's a million different reasons why you can lose a property. Mm-hmm. So we were like, well, let's get something. Let's start growing our deer, managing our own deer. And that's how we did it. It was I'll buy one, you buy the other, and we'll have a few other people contribute, and we'll be able to afford it, not have too much risk into it. Mm-hmm. Should have some good equity out of the gate if everybody helps with, a down payment and stuff. And so once you have that much equity into it right out of the gate, if something does go south, another, knock on wood, crash in the economy or something, you should be able to get out of it if an emergency arises relatively easily without too much loss.
For sure.
I want to bring some uniqueness maybe for just your listeners to understand too on this. For me, I bought my first property with Brad 3 years ago. So while they have been doing this for a few years, I had just recently gotten into the game. And really it was the attraction of, number one, you got to be trusting of the people that you're getting into buying land with, because you've got to be diehard deer hunters if that's what you're going into. You can't, everybody's got to be on the same page. But the attractiveness of like not being 100% on the hook for everything that goes on, whether you're trying to put a building up, whether you're trying to put food plots in, and everybody here's a poor man food plots, and whether you need equipment, maybe you could buy a junky tractor, but that junky tractor then becomes a little more affordable for the whole group. And so the appeal of the way that they have set it up, and then I'm now in the midst of and in the mix of, just certainly makes it really attractive, price point wise, collaboration wise. I know a lot of deer hunters can be, I'm going to go do this thing on my own, but it is really a fun experience to be around a bunch of like-minded people, and I think that's like the biggest thing. But I mean, I'm only 3 years into owning land. And figuring out the best ways to do it and how to do it, when to timber it and when not to timber it. And it's a ton of fun. It consumes you.
Are you going to try to keep this tight knit group, or are you going to continue to expand to get some bigger properties? Or, I mean, what's the expansion look like? Or is it just staying? I mean, what's your guys' vision? I guess what it boils down to.
I mean, if you can have other people that are like-minded, which there's not that many people out there, we'd be open to it. But it's like, man, you got to be a diehard hunter, or best case scenario, a silent investor that doesn't hunt. So, there are people out there that I talk to on a regular basis that are like, I'd like to just, I saw how much money you made on this one, how much money you made on that one, and I like land. Can we use it during the summer with just the family? You guys hunt on it. We don't really do that, but I mean, ideally we would like to roll in personally, and I think everybody else is the same way. If you can get the right property in the right area and expand on it as much as possible. Like right now we have a little bit of a home base. It'd be great if everything was in a nice 200 to 400 acre, all contiguous. But I mean, in a lot of senses, it's great to have 100 acre and then 100 acres a couple miles down the road and another 40 acres, close by, and just be able to hunt bigger deer. I mean, it seems like if you do a lot of the right things, land management wise and deer management wise, you can suck in the deer from miles away to that little concentrated area. So you can hunt a bigger pool of deer and just make sure you get in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, for sure. And so you sent over the kind of one of the operating agreements you guys use. And so, because I know that there's probably, okay, so we got some of these figured out, but what about these, you call them the Steven rules, right?
Oh yeah. The hunting rules.
So, and I love that it's so black and white and it's already communicated and it's like, it's just black and white. So one of these is, let's see. So some of them are pretty cool. Like, so any shed antler found by any member will be given to the individual that harvests said buck. That seems very fair and only logical. Any harvested buck must be mounted with a full shoulder mount, or the antlers of the skull must remain on the property once dwelling is established. I love that too. Cause I mean, once pull the trigger, that $500 bill there, like how bad do you want to shoot it? And that probably saves some deer, I bet.
Yep, absolutely. It does.
And so let's see. And then also it says that you guys highly encourage all the deer from the farm to be kind of displayed on, if you guys have a camp there. Now, some other interesting things, and I'll have to ask you why or what this was structured for. So no member may hunt the property more than 3 days in a row in any given 7-day period, and then no more than 8 days in any calendar month unless approved by all members. Is that just because these are 100-acre parcels, and if everyone hunted too much, the farm would just be burnt out?
Yeah, we wanted to have quality hunts over than quantity hunts, where people are burning out spots and stuff like that. Also, if you're like taking a week's vacation, you want those days to be as productive as possible. And all of us have multiple properties, so it's like, all right, you can't be out there every single day of your entire rutcation trying to chase the one buck that we all want to shoot. You have to break it up a little bit.
I think, Brad and I live in Indiana. We're a little bit closer to our Indiana property than the Ohio property. So it just it's being fair to everybody who has a piece of the pie. Now, I would say, I imagine if Junior was daylighting and somebody hit their third day, I doubt that rule would matter much, know, or not Junior, the huff buck, sorry.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? Like you'd let it slide, I think it's general guidelines to stay with it.
Sure.
You might have somebody in the same tree with you.
Right. So, and that's funny you mentioned that, because I think anyone that's planning their hunts too, I mean, obviously everyone talks about, hunting like different cold fronts, weather events, or, trying to be strategic with your sits. It's probably keeping people off from hunting those farms on the marginal days and just adding unnecessary pressure. And that, like you said, makes it better for everyone.